Disk queue length. So let's talk about what disk queue length means. The disk queue length is the number of I/O operations that are sitting at the controller level waiting for completion. So I want a page, I look in cache, it's not there. I push this off to an I/O request. Now that's expensive because not only are you going for the physical I/O, which is about as expensive as you can get, you're also swapping your process out while waiting for that I/O to complete. Anything to add to that one?
This is one where you do have to be careful a little bit too, like PLE, because it depends a lot on the hardware you have behind the scenes. So if you have SAN, then the SAN might have caching. And then you might have the Windows server that sees its HBus adapter, the hardware input-output subsystem. And so it has the cache. So you might have two places at which you have a possibility to queue. So again, like you said, it's something that you need to keep an eye on and understand a little bit more than just the basics of how a computer works.
Yeah, it's the basics of how the database works that's more important here, right? So as I'm looking at this, I'm a database geek. I am not a hardware geek. And as we track down hardware problems, I listen and pay attention. And I hear the words, but I don't pretend I understand everything that's going on behind the scenes. I mean, I know what SAN caching is, right? But what do you do about it? From my perspective as a database, yeah, exactly. So I look at this and I say, okay, between 9:20 and 9:30, which is when everybody was calling up and saying we've got a problem, I had a severe hardware bottleneck here. And how do I know I have a hardware bottleneck? Because I was not getting the pages from the disk at the rate that I needed to, as defined by Microsoft, who says, if you're above 2 for 10 minutes, you probably have a hardware bottleneck. And here we're exceeding 200, which is kind of high.
Right.
And I'm going to move a little bit faster because I've got about 20 more slides and we've only got about 25 more minutes. So
Sure.
We've talked through disk queue length, the idea here being that we have a hardware bottleneck. One of the cool things that a good tool does is correlate this hardware bottleneck with other things that are going on. Is our network slowing down? What queries are we running at this point? So I know that if I'm trying to debug this, it's really nice to be able to say, okay, I've got this hardware spike here. What queries we're running at this time, and be able to just go in and drill down to that particular point.
Right.
I'm going to skip the next disk queue length slide and talk about blockers for a minute, because this isn't a database performance problem. Really, it's a perceived problem, which is more application related. Do you want to go with this one?
Well, absolutely. Reader client will not block other readers. But if someone is writing data, maybe they're doing an update statement or an insert or a delete, any page that they have as a part of their transaction blocks everyone else. And so if that person isn't quick about completing their transaction, especially if the developers have written their